History of Dark Age, Prologue, Episode 11, Ascension Protocol, Chapter 11, The Dawn Trial. Dawn rose like a fractured blade. The first light did not warm Ethereion. It judged it. A cold beam of pale gold radiance sliced across the horizon, bending around mountains, threading through forests, ricocheting off the sky itself. It touched every corner of the world the Sentinel had marked as a test ground. And where the light passed, reality shifted. Caris opened his eyes to the new morning and felt the world inhale sharply, like a wounded beast bracing for the next strike. "It's begun," he murmured. Evangeline, still linked to him by faint veins of gold and obsidian energy, exhaled shakily. The trial. The Sentinel's conditions are rewriting the world's parameters. All around them, the ruins of the labyrinth reformed into something more dangerous. A testing ground the world had never seen. A shifting landscape fused from memory, anomaly, and the Prime Law's last defensive instabilities. Far below, Arthur braced himself as the ground vibrated like a living heart. Helena, both of them, felt the dimensional pressure rising, thickening the air, stretching their shadows into unnatural shapes. The world was becoming a crucible, and they were its first sparks. Chapter 12. The First Trial. Convergence Fields. The trial began without warning. Wind screamed upward, twisting into spirals of prismatic pressure. Soil split into reflective shards. The sky rippled like stretched glass. Then came the voices. Not human. Not machine. Something in between. Convergence fields initiated. The ground beneath Caris erupted in a circular glyph the size of a city plaza. It spun with Prime Law geometry, triangles inside spirals, circles inside broken linework, the mark of the ancients. Helena stumbled, clutching her temples. "It's forcing alignment of all anomalies at once." Her alternate self gasped, flickering. "It wants us merged back into singularities, to erase every paradox the third path created." Evangeline's eyes widened. "If it succeeds, anomalies will collapse, including Helena, including Arthur, including Caris's flame." Caris tightened his fists. "Then we stop it." But the glyphs only grew brighter. A voice thundered across the trial field. "Stability through reduction. Anomalies will be reforged." Arthur stepped forward, blade drawn, defiant. "Not anymore." But the convergence pulse hit them all at once. Light, compression, a force dragging all versions of them inward, threatening to reduce every divergence to a single authorized reality. Caris roared as black flame tore from his spine, countering the pull. Evangeline's gatelight spiraled outward, weaving with his, forming a protective sphere. Helena and her alternate self fused for a heartbeat, then violently separated again, both screaming. The trial wasn't designed to destroy. It was designed to normalize, and normalization was worse. "Caris," Evangeline cried, "we can't hold this shield long." He grit his teeth. "We don't have to." Black flame expanded, gatelight focused, their energies intertwined, but not to resist, to rewrite the command. The convergence field glitched. For a moment the world faltered, and then the pulse receded. Helena collapsed to her knees, panting. Her alternate self knelt beside her, shaken. Arthur staggered back as Arthur flickered behind him, stabilizing again, still separate, still alive. Caris lowered his hands, embers fading from his palms. "We just told the Sentinel," he said softly, "that we reject its first condition." Evangeline looked to the horizon. "And now it knows we're willing to fight." Chapter 13. Beneath the northern ice. Far to the north, the ancient structure buried beneath oceans of ice stirred again. The colossal eye pulsed once more with deep glacial light. Ascension. Protocol. Stage 2. Targets. Unmaker. Gatebearer. Dimensional anchor. Depth breaker. Success condition. Assimilation. Ice cracked. Continents trembled. And a massive construct, half cathedral, half titan, began to rise from beneath the crystalline sea. Unlike the Sentinel, this guardian did not radiate judgment. It radiated claiming. A voice rumbled through the water. "The world does not need to test you. It needs to replace you." Its colossal limbs unfolded, each etched with symbols of a forgotten age. The first guardian enforced the Prime Law. The second guardian enforced the will of creation. And creation was waking. Chapter 14. Fractures of Fate. Back at the ruins, Helena gazed north as the horizon turned silver blue. "Something else woke up," she whispered. Her alternate self nodded with dread. That wasn't the Sentinel. Caris and Evangeline both turned, instinctively tightening their bond. Arthur's hand gripped his weapon. His jaw clenched. What now? Caris felt the new guardian's presence like a pressure against his skull. Colder than the Sentinel. Older. Hungrier. He closed his eyes. "We broke the cycles, and the world is calling back its oldest laws to replace them." Evangeline looked at him. "Can we stop it?" Caris opened his eyes. "No, not alone." He stepped to the center of the trial-scorched field. Black flame ignited behind him like wings. Evangeline's gatelight flared in answer. Arthur's aura sharpened with resolve. Helena stood tall, her timeline solid and her anomaly unbroken. The four faced the coming storm. Then, Caris said quietly, we redefined the test. The first rays of the second guardian pierced the sky, and the trial at dawn became the War of Ascension. History of Dark Age. Prologue. Episode 12. Ascension Protocol 2. The Claiming. Chapter 15. The Rise of the Second Guardian. The northern horizon split open, not like a wound, like an ancient seal torn from existence. A pillar of silver-blue radiance spearheaded into the heavens, its light so cold it formed frost patterns across the clouds. Beneath the pillar, waves froze mid-motion as the colossal structure beneath the crystalline sea breached the surface. What emerged dwarfed the sentinel, a titan of obsidian ice and living metal, its body layered in shifting geometric plates that moved like glaciers breathing. Its chest housed a cyclopean core, a rotating mandala of creation symbols, each one older than recorded myth. When it inhaled, the wind died. When it exhaled, the sky dimmed. Then came the voice, not spoken but enforced through the bones of the world. Ascension Protocol. Engaged. Anomalies will be claimed. The Titan took its first step onto the frozen sea. The entire northern continent shuddered. Its eye opened. Far, far to the south, Caris flinched. That thing, he whispered, jaw tightening. It isn't here to judge. Evangeline's pulse quickened as her gatelight flickered in alarm. It's here to overwrite us. Arthur felt an old instinct, fear, curl beneath his ribs. Not for himself, but for the fragility of the newborn third path. Helena stared north, her breath leaving her like mist. The Sentinel tests us. But the second guardian, she swallowed. It intends to become the new cycle. Her alternate self's expression hardened. It wants to rebuild the world without architects, without gates, without anomalies, without us. Caris's flame roared, spiraling around him in black glass arcs. Then, it is my enemy. Chapter 16. The Rupture Wins. The first blow of Ascension Protocol struck before they even had time to react. A shockwave tore across the world. Not sound, not light, but intention. The second Guardian's core flared, sending out a wave of reality-binding pressure that bent time sideways and folded atmosphere like paper. Trees aged a century in a second and then reverted. Mountains stuttered between peaks and valleys. The sky warped, turning inside out before reasserting itself. Arthur staggered, clutching his head. It's rewriting the environment, trying to synchronize reality with itself. Evangeline gasped as her gatelight sputtered. Caris, the Guardian is overriding the laws we're creating. Caris raised his hand and the black flame surged outward, forming a defensive shell around them. Shadows bent, twisted, and folded into a dome of obsidian fire. But the Guardian's pressure was relentless. The shell cracked. Helena and her alternate self pressed their palms together, stabilizing the anomaly between them. Their combined resonance formed a harmonic distortion that momentarily weakened the Guardian's influence. Arthur slammed his blade into the ground, anchoring their position with a shock of depth-born energy. Caris exhaled. The shell held. Barely. Chapter 17. The Architect's Last Memory. A pulse of blue light ignited around Helena's alternate self. A memory flare no system should have been able to access. Helena and the others stepped toward her, but she held up a trembling hand. I'm remembering something I never lived. Her voice grew hollow, distant, layered with thousands of forgotten truths. A memory from the architects. The world dimmed. The air froze. The memory unfolded. A vast chamber of stars. Dozens of radiant beings typing laws into creation itself. Cycle architecture forming like living equations. A second guardian being forged to protect reality from entropy. Then, a command. One line. One rule. If cycles fail, initiate Ascension Protocol. Restore order by absorbing all anomalous identities. Helena's alternate self inhaled sharply as the memory shattered. The second guardian wasn't meant to preserve balance. Evangeline's voice was a whisper. It was meant to erase individuality entirely. Arthur's grip tightened around his weapon. Like a universal overwrite. And Caris, Helena added quietly, you're the largest anomaly it will target first. Caris did not flinch. Then we make sure it never reaches us. Chapter 18. The Herald of Ascension. The Ice Titan stopped on the northern cliffs. Its mandala core turned. Something inside clicked into place. A beam of absolute void shot into the sky, blotting out the sun. When the beam faded, a smaller figure stood where the darkness had gathered. Humanoid, metallic, silver blue. An angelic construct, face smooth, featureless, except for a single glowing sigil on its forehead. It opened its hands. Feathers of crystalline light fell. Where each feather touched the ground, reality crystallized into hexagonal tiles. "Protocol Herald," Helena whispered. "An extension of the Second Guardian's will." The Herald's voice vibrated through every atom in the air. "Creation does not recognize the third path. Submit for assimilation." The ruins trembled. Caris stepped forward, flame igniting around him like a storm. Evangeline's voice sharpened. "No one is submitting." The Herald tilted its head. "Resistance confirmed. Ascension will proceed." It raised its hand, and the ground beneath them shattered into 1,000 floating shards. Arthur swore. Helena gripped her alternate self. Evangeline's light flared. Caris roared. The Second Guardian had sent its first soldier, and the war for Ethereion had begun. History of Dark Age. Prologue. Episode 13. The Herald of Assimilation. Chapter 19. The First Strike. The Herald moved without warning. No stance, no preparation, just pure absolute execution. Its body blurred into a line of silver-blue light, and the shockwave arrived after the attack. A slicing ripple that carved the air and split the ground beneath them into kilometer-long fissures. Caris intercepted it mid-flight. His black flame flared in an eruption of obsidian arcs, forming a makeshift shield. The impact rang like a struck cathedral bell. The shock hurled him back. He slid across the fragmented earth, boots carving molten trails through the stone. But he held. Barely. "Fast," he growled, wiping blood from his lip, "but not untouchable." The Herald hovered above the cracked terrain, its voice empty. "Primary target. Confirmed. Caris. Initiating anomaly extraction." It extended its hand. A sphere of inverted light formed. Not darkness, not energy, but negation. Helena's eyes widened. "That's an assimilation core. If it hits you, it won't kill you." Evangeline finished the sentence, voice trembling. "It'll rewrite you from the inside." The sphere fired. Caris didn't dodge. He dived straight into it. His flame roared, bending gravity, space, and sound into spiraling black arcs. The negation sphere collided with him head-on. The explosion was silent. A burst of inverted matter expanded outward, bending all color to grayscale for a heartbeat. When the distortion faded, Caris was still standing, breathing hard, kneeling, but alive. A fissure of glowing marks had appeared across his chest, like cracks in glass revealing a burning star underneath. Arthur's blood ran cold. "That mark, that's not damage. That's a seal." Caris looked at him sharply, eyes wild. "What seal?" Helena swallowed. "The Guardian knows your limit." Chapter 20. The Seal of Divergence. Evangeline knelt beside Caris, scanning the crackling sigils spreading across his skin. The marks pulsed with cold, algorithmic rhythm. "This isn't the Guardian injuring you," she murmured. "It's activating a restriction placed on your anomaly long before we woke up." Arthur's tone dropped into something grim. "Your flame is diverging too far from the cycle. The Guardian is forcing you back into the system." Caris clenched his fist, fire sputtering. "Then I'll break the system." But the flame stuttered again, as if something inside him disagreed. Helena stared at him, realization dawning. "Caris, you weren't created outside the cycle." Her alternate self whispered the rest, horrified. "You were created as a contingency within it." Evangeline's breath caught. "A failsafe, a weapon against entropy, but chained. The Second Guardian has authority over your anomaly." Caris rose slowly to his feet. His voice was low enough to crack the air. "Then I will become something it no longer has authority over." Chapter 21. Helena's Paradox. Meanwhile, the Herald vanished. One blink, and it appeared behind Helena, its hand extended toward her skull. "Secondary target priority. Dual identity anomaly." Arthur lunged, blade igniting with depth light, but the Herald already had Helena by the throat. Her alternate self screamed, "Don't let it touch her!" Too late. The Herald's sigil flared, and Helena convulsed. The nameless, impossible paradox inside her awoke. The unstable resonance from existing beside her own alternate self. It began to spiral, fracturing into a vortex that tore at her identity. Evangeline reached for her, light flaring. Arthur shouted her name. Caris burned brighter. But Helena's vision blurred as the Herald dragged threads of her existence apart. Her voice fractured. I'm... Her alternate self grabbed her hand, forcing resonance, merging their frequencies. Her aura split into mirrored bands of light and shadow. If they merged too deep, they'd die. If they resisted, the Herald would overwrite her. The Herald lifted her off the ground. Paradox identified. Commencing resolution. Helena's scream ruptured the air. Chapter 22. Depth. Unbound. Arthur didn't think. He didn't calculate. He descended. His blade plunged into the ground, and the world around him bent. Depth energy, usually restrained, erupted like a star carved open. Tendrils of shimmering black-blue physics rushed upward, knitting into a storm. The Herald turned. Too slow. Arthur vanished, and the next instant, his sword was through the Herald's chest. The construct staggered, crackling with unstable geometry. Helena fell, gasping, into her alternate self's arms. Arthur's voice was a growl. "You don't get to touch her." The Herald's wound sealed instantly, not repaired, rewritten. It turned its head toward Arthur. Depth entity detected. Impossible. Arthur tightened his grip. "Get used to it." The Herald scanned him again, confused. "The depth is not permitted to manifest outside the void." Arthur smirked. "Guess someone forgot to lock the door." The Herald's core pulsed. Third anomaly identified. Priority update. All three of them felt the world lurch as the Guardian's attention shifted. Caris, Helena, Arthur. 3 anomalies, 3 impossibilities. The Guardian was coming, and it was done sending messengers. History of Dark Age. Prologue. Episode 14, The Second Guardian, descends. Chapter 23, The March of the Colossus. The northern horizon pulsed. Then the ice shattered. The Second Guardian, the titan of obsidian ice and living geometry, took its first true step onto solid land. With each footfall, the world warped. Tundra folded, mountains compressed, the air itself reorganized into lattice-like patterns. It wasn't walking. It was rewriting the terrain to carry it forward. Every step was a law. Every movement, a decree. Ascension Protocol, 43%. The mandala core in its chest rotated, releasing spirals of prismatic equations that spread like auroras across the sky. When the aurora touched the ground, forests crystallized into hexagonal fractals. Animals froze, rivers calcified. The world became code. And far to the south, Arthur felt a weight press against his lungs. "That thing isn't approaching us," he whispered. Evangeline finished quietly. "It's approaching the world to make it like itself." Caris spat a spark of black flame. "Then we move." Chapter 24, The Collapse Within. Helena. Helena was still pale, trembling in her alternate self's arms. Her aura flickered between 2 frequencies, destabilizing each time she tried to stand. Arthur knelt beside her. "Helena, breathe. Focus on one timeline." She shook her head violently. "I can't. The Herald forced a partial merge. Our identities are overlapping. If we separate," her alternate self continued grimly, "we'll tear ourselves apart on a conceptual level." Evangeline hovered her hands over them, gatelight scanning. "There's only one stable option." Helena swallowed. "Full merge," her alternate self nodded. "Or death." For a moment, silence. The ruins trembled under the Guardian's distant march. Helena grabbed her alternate's hand. "Fine, but we guide the merge our way, not the systems." Their foreheads touched. 2 Helenae aligned. Light twisted, shadow curled. Memories fused and rewrote. Echoes became unity. A soft explosion of shimmering resonance burst outward. When the light faded, one Helena remained. Stronger, older, sharper, eyes glowing with double inheritance. Arthur exhaled slowly. Caris smirked. Evangeline smiled with trembling relief. Helena rose. "I'm stable now," but her voice was deeper. "And I can feel the Guardian." Chapter 25. Caris breaks the seal. Caris studied the glowing fissures still etched across his chest. They pulsed in sync with the Guardian, a reminder of the leash he never knew he had. Helena stepped toward him. "That seal is connected directly to the Guardian's core. The more you resist, the more it constrains you." Caris chuckled darkly. "Then I'll overpower it." "No," Evangeline snapped. "You'll explode. That seal is woven into your anomaly's foundation." Caris looked at his hands, at the flame, at the chains buried inside it. "Then help me." Arthur stepped forward, expression grim. "This is not about raw power. The seal isn't a physical lock. It's a conceptual one. It limits how far you can diverge from the cycle's design." Helena finished. "To break it, you must burn a part of yourself." Caris looked up. "Which part?" Helena didn't hesitate. "The part the Guardian can recognize." The flame around him surged, then shrank, coiling inward like a dying star. Caris clenched his jaw, sweat beading on his skin as he forced the flame to compress, condense, and devour itself. The fissures glowed, then ignited. Caris screamed. The black flame detonated around him, not outward, but inward, stripping away the original shape of his anomaly. And when the smoke cleared, the fissures were gone. Caris swayed. He looked different, sharper, less human, more infinite. Arthur stepped closer. "Caris, what did you burn?" Caris wiped blood from his chin and smiled with teeth far too white. "My origin." Chapter 26. Evolution of the Herald. The Herald, impaled earlier by Arthur, rose from the crater where it had crashed, but it did not repair itself. It upgraded. Its core flared purple for the first time, and geometric wings of light folded out from its back. The silver-blue body shifted into a more humanoid, combat-optimized form. Tall, elegant, lethal. Segments reconfigured. Sigils rewrote themselves. The air vibrated with impossible frequencies. Adaptation complete. Resistance data integrated. It raised its hand. A new weapon coalesced. A blade of pure negation. Helena's breath hitched. It's evolving based on our attacks. Arthur gripped his sword. Let it evolve. Evangeline's hands ignited with gatelight. Because we'll evolve faster. The Herald vanished. It reappeared behind Evangeline. Its blade sliced. Caris caught it. His fingers closed around negation itself, black flame devouring impossible matter. The Herald froze, confused. Caris smirked. I don't follow the system anymore. He snapped the blade. The Herald's core flickered, and for the first time, the perfect construct hesitated. Chapter 27. The Descent of the Guardian. The sky dimmed. No, it faded. Clouds dissolved into equations. Sunlight fragmented into binary auroras. Gravity lightened, strengthened, then stabilized at a higher density. The second Guardian had arrived. The Titan stood at the horizon, still kilometers away, but so vast its form consumed half the sky. Its mandala core spun violently. Ascension Protocol, 60%. Anomalies located. Engaging, overwrite. The world compressed under its voice. Stone shuddered, rivers vaporized, reality thinned. Arthur felt his depth energy recoil. Helena's merged resonance screamed warnings. Caris's flame snarled. Evangeline staggered, gripping her chest as her gate flickered. What? She gasped, choking on the pressure. It's suppressing the concept of identity. Helena grabbed her wrist. No, identity isn't being suppressed. Her voice turned ice cold. It's being selected. Caris spit fire. That means it's choosing who gets overwritten first. Arthur raised his blade, teeth gritted. And we're all at the top of the list. The Guardian took another step. The sky cracked. The earth groaned. The Herald lifted its head toward the Titan. Merge request. Sent. The Guardian responded. Approved. The Herald dissolved into light and shot into the Guardian's mandala core. The Titan's body blazed. A new voice resonated. Herald integrated. Ascension Protocol. 80%. Helena's eyes widened with horror. It's evolving too. Arthur lowered his stance. Caris ignited. Evangeline steadied her gait. And together they faced the colossal being rewriting the world. The final battle of the Prologue had begun.